here live at 1 o'clock on Thursday, and I think it's May 8th, but I'm not exactly positive. I'm in the neighborhood if I'm incorrect. This Sunday is Mother's Day. If you haven't done anything about it yet, here's your warning. If you live in the Austin area, you can send warm chocolate chip cookies to someone with Tiff's treats. I've done it a couple times. People love it. Today we're reading chapters 25 and 26. Tomorrow, Friday, which I think is actually the 8th. Today is the 7th. Tomorrow, we are doing our second Zoom lunch. And let me know if you don't have the link for the Zoom. It's the same one as last week. And 5 lucky fans will win a pizza delivered to their door. Charlie Case and T.R. Cameron, 2 authors, one in Terra Novis, one in Aura Saren, will be there as well. And next Friday, Sarah Nofke will be there. And hi, Mike. Yes, you did find us fast today. And so sign up. You have to sign up every week. If you want to win the pizza, you've got to sign up anew every week. Bring your lunch. It's 1 p.m. Central Time. Hope I see you there. Hope everybody's day is going well. Hi, Diane. Nice to see you too. Hi, Grace, who has started the watch party. And hi, Nancy and all the regulars. Today's chapter 25 and 26 of WarMage. I think I'm going to do Daniel Codex for the next book. For all of those of you who are saying what's Daniel Codex, you're in luck because you'll find out. And for now, let's get started with chapter 25. But remember, tomorrow, no reading, Zoom lunch. Bring your lunch. And if you signed up, if you entered, you might be one of the 5 winners for a pizza. So all that to look forward to. We still have the eternal gratitude list going in the Martha Carr fan group on Facebook. So if you want to go add to that, it's a good way to train your brain to look for solutions. And I'm sure it wasn't dumb luck, Mike. You are getting better at it. And you always find it. One way or the other, you always end up here. Okay, chapter 25. The last sliver of sun was dropping below the horizon when Raven walked up the steps of the house and opened the screen door. Loud grunting could be heard coming from the stairs to the root cellar, followed by a heavy thud. Grandpa! Raven dropped her satchel and ran for the stairs, her mind racing with the dark possibilities. What? You're home! For the love of... The trunk slid down a step with another heavy thunk. Grab on! I could use the help. Damn thing is a lot heavier than I remember. What's that look for? You look like you've seen an elf. Connor Albee was dragging a large trunk. He was only halfway up the stairs and sweat was dribbling down his nose while he gasped for breath. Let me get in there, Grandpa. Yes, please. I'm kind of stuck here. His arms were shaking from the effort. And I'm losing my grip. She stepped down and grabbed one end of the long metal handle on the side of the trunk. 1, 2, 3, heave. Raven strained under the effort, her sore shoulder making it harder as she leaned back and pulled as hard as she could. The trunk slowly bumped up the steps until it was finally at the top. Connor gave it one last shove, moving it away from the opening. What's in there that's so heavy? Raven sat back on the floor, panting. Her grandfather ran his arm across his brow, wiping away sweat. I'll show you in a minute. Connor grabbed the railing on the stairs and held himself up while he caught his breath. Let's take it into the front room. He came up the rest of the steps and grabbed an end of the trunk. Raven wiggled her fingers and grabbed the handle as they half dragged, half lifted it into the front room of the house. Let's get it near the couch. It's going to have to be our new coffee table. I don't think it's ever leaving this room again. Perfect, right there. Hang on, I need a drink of water. Raven looked down at the trunk. It was brown and plain with tarnished brass rim. A large lock hung across the latch. She ran her finger across the A, painted on the top in gold leaf. You don't have any dead bodies in here, do you? Connor Albee snorted and made his way to the kitchen. He poured a glass of water, gulping it down. No, not in this one anyway. Stay out of the far side of the basement, he joked. Her grandfather came and sat on the couch in front of the trunk. He bent over to get a better look at the case, feeling the seams and smiling. He glanced over at Raven, her hands on her knees. Your knee feeling better? Raven looked down at her knee and rolled up the pant leg to get a better look. Purple and green splotches were already fading to yellow. Yeah, just another bruise to add to the road map across my body. William said I'd survive it. Connor grunted while he jiggled the key in the lock. Smart boy. She sat down next to him, furrowing her brow. Where has this thing been? I've poked around that entire basement. Aha! Victory! The lock popped up, loosening the top. My dear, it's been hidden down in the recesses of the basement for a long time. And truthfully, I probably should have told you about it. Now that you're getting older and are in the academy, it's time you learned a bit more about my past. He lifted the lid of the trunk, releasing a cloud of dust that briefly filled the air around them. Raven watched in amazement as her grandfather pulled out a pale green uniform with a shiny lapel pin depicting a dragon. Raven reached out to touch the pin. What's that for? Hang on, I'll get to that, all in good time. He brushed his hand across the front, smoothing a wrinkle. Boy, this brings back memories. His eyes shined as he held it up. Amazing. Wait, there's 2 patches. On each shoulder was a navy blue patch given to the wizards who had protected the city. Raven got up and went to her room, digging out the box where she kept her most prized possessions. She held up the green patch and looked at it, puzzled. She got up to leave and noticed the orb. The pink is creeping up into the orb. She shook her head and scooped it up in her hand. Raven came into the living room with the faded patch held out in her open palm. This one looks about the same, only the color is different. Where did this one come from? Her grandfather looked startled, and sorrow flashed across his face, replaced by a faint smile. You really have investigated every corner of this house. Where did you find that? I thought it was lost. It was in a drawer stuck at the back. Was it yours? Connor Albee let out a sigh and took the patch from her, running his thumb over the stitching carefully. No, it's not mine. He hesitated and looked at the details, blinking hard. It was your mother's, and she earned it. Raven sat down hard, dropping onto the couch, her mouth hanging open. What do you mean, my mother's? She was a mage. One of the best, and something you can be proud of. He arched an eyebrow and leveled his gaze at her. Raven bit her bottom lip and felt her face redden. I never meant any disrespect. Connor's expression softened and he patted her hand. Sometimes when things come easily to us, we forget to treasure them. Henry said the same thing. Really? Connor let out a laugh. Raven finally smiled and held out her hand for the patch. He says a lot of smart things if you listen long enough. You never talk about her, about Mom. What was she like? Connor handed over the patch. Fiery and quick. She could figure things out from 5 different angles in just a minute of time. She valued being a mage, thought it was a privilege and a necessary tool in her arsenal. Raven tilted her head to the side. Arsenal? She held up the patch, the orb still hidden in her other hand. The wars were before Mom. How did she earn a patch? The swarm was only one pest we've had through the years. Raiders have attacked us time and again as well, hired by rogue kingdoms or looking for easy pickings. A mistake the same group never makes twice. When your mother was just barely 20 years old, 3 small tribes came together to try and override the city. He shook his head, remembering. They were hardened warriors, and most from Brighton had never been in a single battle. There were days when it looked like all was lost. The raids went on for weeks. Your mother and others like her turned the tide and saved Brighton. Others like her? Mages who knew how to wield a weapon. That's part of the reason I've taught you what I can about weapons. I'm glad that school will teach you more. It's as valuable as magic. Or a dragon. Connor shook his head. You and dragons. The band of powerful women became known as the Order of WarMage and earned their own patch. Your mother led the group. Aren't you in school with another one of their children? What's that child's name? Bella? The smile faded from Raven's face, and she did her best not to roll her eyes. Bella Chase, we've met. That's it. Her mother was a WarMage too. He excitedly punched the air with his finger. You should have seen them ride, side by side, and now their daughters are at Fowler together. Funny how that happened. Her grandfather moved the uniform out of the way and pulled out several old journals, a sharp dagger, and a small, well-worn book with a deep burgundy cover. Raven, the things in here, there's not much left to commemorate them in Brighton. This is just about all that's left of them. Of what? Of the Wizard Riders. Raven grew excited, her face lighting up. The Wizard Riders? You rode dragons into the war? He nodded at the pile of memories in front of him. I did. We did. There was a legion of us at one time, gathered from the entire kingdom. This is proof of it. He picked up an old piece of rolled up parchment, carefully spreading it out. The corners were bent and worn. It was a drawing of a group of young men in their pale green uniforms and tall brown leather laced-up boots, smiling in front of two enormous dragons. These men were my friends, my brothers. He pointed at a young face, his jaw set, staring straight ahead. That's supposed to be me on the left. Red hair, like mine. Raven bounced on her seat, smiling. It's been a long time since it was anything but gray. Raven shook her head in disbelief. Those dragons look fierce, like they're ready to bite your heads off. He laughed. Well, they took off quite a few heads in their day, but not ours. They trusted us and we trusted them. It took a lot of work, but we each had a strong bond. He pointed to the drawing of the tall silver dragon looming behind him. That was Apollo, he said, tapping the drawing. Hell of a dragon. He was an ice dragon, which are uncommon but not rare. He was the fastest dragon in the fleet. He waved his hands in the air, excited. I tell you, when I was on his back and we were flying in the air, I felt unstoppable. He leaned back and closed his eyes. Nobody had ever seen a faster or more agile dragon, and I could ride him anywhere. He could unleash a wintry blast of freezing air while ducking under a curtain of arrows. I haven't felt freedom like that in a long time. I could listen to your old war stories every night. War stories are hard to tell. Even the victors come out with deep wounds that don't heal well. He stared straight ahead, not saying anything for a moment, while Raven patiently waited. She had seen that look before. Please don't stop. He finally let out a sigh. There were a lot of good people lost in the Great War, and it was ugly. Many of us had been farmers or shop owners and got pulled into duty. There was no draft back then. There were only a few dozen of us who had been trained to fight using magic, and even fewer who could also ride a dragon into battle. Connor Albee took a deep breath. He got a faraway look, his eyes moving around the room as if he was seeing an entirely different scene. It wasn't so much a war as it was a rampage. For a while, somebody had the nerve to walk their dog in front of the window. His fist shook in the air at the unseen foe. We thought a few more battles would wipe out the swarm completely, but it's true. What you can't see will bite the shit out of you. They were in everything. I mean everything. He shook his head to clear it and looked at Raven. She was still patiently listening, gradually getting a sense of the heart. That was before the wall was built. You know that big fountain in the middle of the town square? Raven nodded, drawing up her knees and wrapping her arms around her legs, but saying nothing. The old people sit there to remember the dead. It was a promise they made to never forget. Foolish words. It would be better if we could all forget. He batted at the air, frustrated. That fountain covers what's left of a giant hole that took too many people down into it. That's horrible. Raven covered her mouth with her hand, her heart beating harder. Then it got worse. The swarm did something we didn't think was possible. Some of them adapted and went underground to reach the center of the city. Some of them? Connor Albee rubbed his face with his hands. The swarm is not one beast. It's a horror show of different creatures. The giant beetles, the razorbacks. They make a modulated, high-pitched whine that could drive most to the point of distraction. He swallowed hard, licking his lips. There were others that reminded me of mosquitoes with swords jutting out of their jaws. A long shudder passed down his back. Over time, I swear some of them mutated into what was needed. Raven shook her head. I don't understand. He looked at her, his eyes wide, his hands dancing through the air as he talked. They would lose a few of their flying creatures, and we'd have an advantage for a few days. Then suddenly there would be fewer of them crawling along the ground and the same number circling overhead. How did you ever gain the upper hand? A fat, lazy tear rolled down Connor Albee's cheek. The wizard riders, what was left of us. A plan was made to combine our magic, the same way I showed you to fix your shoulder. We would meet them on the outskirts where the satellite ranches now sit and draw them away from the town and wait. Raven held her breath, wondering what happened next. We stood in a long line and waited for the freak show to get closer to us. There must have been hundreds and hundreds of them, and only a few dozen left of us by then. We started the spell, shouting it at them, all of us repeating it over and over again. Tell me the spell, I can learn it. No. He shouted louder than he intended to, startling both of them. We swore to never say it again. He stood up and paced the small room and came back to settle onto the couch again. The pulse blew out toward the swarm, absorbing them and ricocheted back toward us, creating a pressure blast that no beast survived and very few wizards. To this day, I can't tell you why any of us made it. That's how you got those scars along your back. Raven had seen the red, ropey scars from time to time growing up, but her grandfather had always quickly covered them. Connor Albee pressed his hand against his chest, his face contorted in pain. The wizards sacrificed themselves. You all did, whispered Raven. The old wizard took a deep breath. There are journals here if you want to read through them, but don't walk away with any of this stuff. None of this leaves the house. You hear me? The other wizards hang out at the Wrangler. They said they miss you. They aren't the only ones. There are others. You see one every day. Headmaster Flynn was one. He's a dragon rider like me? Her grandfather wiped his face on his sleeve and tried to smile. You were a wonder, Raven Albee. Your mother had that kind of ambition. He loaded his things back into the trunk. We all made sacrifices on that battlefield. Some gave their lives. Others dealt with unspeakable pain. I can't tell you why Aiden Flynn doesn't ride anymore. You'd have to talk to him. Connor sat up straight, resting his hands on his lap. The day the riders made that sacrifice, we all lost something, and this kingdom lost the wizard riders. He closed the trunk, pushing the metal lock into place. Why are you showing me all this now? The orb. I saw that it's changing colors. Raven almost forgot, opening her hand and held up the orb. The pink color was spreading, deepening its hue. Something dark is coming this way. Doesn't mean it's the swarm, said Raven. You wiped all of them out. True. It probably is the man-made kind of trouble. But never forget, those damnable creatures are like cockroaches. If even one was left alive, then they can rebuild and turn into another infestation. If there's even a chance, we need to be ready this time and come up with a different solution. We can't let the past dictate your future. Now on to chapter 26. And hi, Lisa. Lois, yes, Mike heard Lois. And also you heard Leela in the background too, but she's not as loud as Lois, so sometimes she gets drowned out. All right, chapter 26. And again, tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central, we will be doing Zoom lunch, and five lucky P fans will win a pizza at their door. But you have to have signed up this week in order to be eligible. And two other authors will be joining us, Tiara Cameron and Charlie Case this week, and Sarah Nofke next week. And on to chapter 26. And anyone can join us for lunch. Anyone at all can bring their lunch and get the Zoom link and show up. So the more the merrier. All right. The sweet smell of cinnamon wafted into Raven's bedroom, gently rousing her awake from a deep slumber. She sat up and rubbed her eyes, trying to shake off her drowsiness. Is he seriously making breakfast? In her stupor, Raven stumbled out of her room in her flannel pajamas, forgetting to grab the pale white robe that dangled from the hook on her door. Raven walked into the kitchen, one eye still shut. Her grandfather's back was to her, busy stirring a pot of oatmeal on the stove, splashing in a little goat milk and sniffing the aroma. Almost. What are you doing up? Raven said in a hushed voice. It's still dark out, she said, pointing at the dark window. I don't have to go out and feed the goats for another hour. Connor looked at his granddaughter and pulled the pot off the heat. I did some thinking last night. You want to be able to ride dragons, and I want to help you get there. But if it's going to work, you're going to have to help Leander pass his tests that are in less than a month. Then there's the question of Fowler and your familiar. A dragon. Raven let out a yawn, even as she grew more excited. You'll need a dragon of your own that trusts you without question if he's your familiar at school. Same clock is ticking on that one. I know, I'm doing the best I can. I can help you. I can teach you more spells. The complicated ones that Fowler won't even get to for at least another year, if ever. And we can work more on archery and your long sword skills. Raven's eyebrows went up and she suddenly was wide awake. The good stuff? That's one way to look at it. We can use the hour before your chores to work on just a precious few. He sloshed oatmeal into a pair of bowls on the counter. He placed a steaming bowl in front of her on the table, a swirl of cinnamon in the center. I'm going to eat mine outside and get things ready. Come out back to the field when you're done and make sure you're ready to cast some spells. He downed a quick cup of water, grabbed his bowl of oatmeal and a spoon, and rushed out the front door of the house. Raven yawned. I'm tired as hell, but this does smell really good. Outside in the field, Connor watched the fog from his breath rise in the cool air. The night sky was still overhead, though a lot of shade of blue was beginning to creep up from the horizon. He waved to Deacon, who was standing guard. Deacon peered into the darkness, trying to make out the tall figure walking around in the early hours. What's Connor Albee doing up? He abandoned his post near the gate and sprinted to him. Something wrong, boss? What are you doing out at this hour? Everything is fine. Connor slapped him on the shoulder. Teaching my granddaughter some of my wisdom. You can get on back to the bunkhouse. You'll have to be up before you know it. I'll keep watch for the rest of the night. Really? Thank you, sir. He didn't waste another second, making a beeline for his cabin. Connor had just gotten a fire started out in the field when Raven walked out shivering, her hands in her pockets. She walked up and put her back to the fire, trying to heat herself up. We are going to have a fire every morning, but not for the reason you think. Connor stood up satisfied with the fire. This morning, I'm teaching you a new weapon. Raven turned around and extended her hands near the flames. She cocked an eyebrow. Do I get to play with fire? You get to manipulate fire. I'm going to show you how with an existing flame, which is much more economical, but no less effective. Follow me. They walked until they were nearly 20 feet away from the fire. Raven shuddered a little as her skin got used to the chilly air once again. Connor Albee faced the fire and gestured for her to stand closer. He pointed off into the distance. There are 7 unlit torches fanning out in both directions. You're going to light them from here. Raven clapped her hands in excitement, forgetting her fatigue. A mage in training is not so bad. Connor smirked and gave her a sidelong glance. Glad you can see the benefits at last. You're going against tradition, too. A mage who wants to ride dragons. So pay attention. You have to get it all right, and this isn't an easy spell. Fire gets wobbly the more you try to maneuver it. Ready? Raven shook out her hands and looked toward the torches, barely visible in the darkness, and back at the fire. I can do this. Of course you can do this. You're an Albee. See those 2 torches closest to the fire? You're going to light those first to get the hang of it. But the farther you have to throw it, the harder it will be to control. You'll need to practice. Let's start simple. Point to the fire and say, Sequanter Flamma. Once you say that, don't take your eyes or your concentration off the fire. I don't want you to do anything with it other than flick it up into the sky. Simple enough. Raven repeated the spell with her mind trained on the fire. I've got this. She flicked her finger upward and a ball of flame shot up from the fire, dispersing into the night air before disappearing. She giggled, surprised. This is going to be fun. Remember, stay focused. It's not about you or how well you're doing it. Stay with the fire. Now light the first torch. Pick whichever one you want. Sequanter Flamma. Raven grabbed some of the fire and slowly guided it in the air, even as it danced and wiggled. But she quickly lost control of it, and the flames showered onto the grass a few feet away from the fire, embers spraying in the darkness. Damn. That's okay. This is why we're not doing this anywhere near the house or the barns. You'll get the hang of it. I've got a few buckets of water over there. I'll just dump one on that spot and put it out. Don't need the whole pasture going up in flames. Don't stop practicing. Just aim in the other direction. Connor walked back to the fire and grabbed the nearby bucket of water, dumping it on the flaming patch of grass, which hissed as it extinguished. He looked back at Raven and pointed to the torch on the other side of the fire. Be careful, Raven. She sighed while she extended out her hand again. Whatever you do, don't set your grandfather on fire. Here goes. No flameouts. Sequanter Flamma. She teased the fire up, emptying her mind and staring at the flames as it moved along, hovering over the grass and zipped to one of the waiting torches. The flame dancing on top of the torch swelled as the wick ignited, and she raised both her arms in victory. With a big smile on his face, Connor grabbed another bucket of water and stepped away from the fire. Just in case, he said, as Raven stared at him. I'm not worried, but it's best to always be prepared. Uh-huh. One by one, Raven repeated the spell and lit the torches, occasionally losing control of the fire the further it had to travel, sending it falling to the grass. Whenever that happened, Connor calmly walked over and dumped another bucket of water over the embers. Eventually, Raven only had one more torch to go. It was 25 yards away from the fire. Sequanter Flamma. The flame traveled steadily, even picking up speed, but only feet from its target, Raven lost the slightest bit of control. Another thought entering her mind, and the flame dropped. After several failed attempts, Raven shook her head and furrowed her brow. Her grandfather walked over to talk to her. Frustrated? She shrugged, annoyed. Fire is really hard to control. If I can do this with any flame, wouldn't it be smarter to just grab it from the torch right next to it? I'm getting tired. Yes, if this were a farming problem, you would do that. But this is practice for a WarMage's daughter. The goal is to develop that muscle inside you that can control fire to use as a weapon. And any weapon is better that can be used from a distance. If you want to ride dragons, you better have a strong handle on your fire manipulation. I think I just need a breather. She sat down on the grass. This is why you're getting the reps in now, my dear. Be patient. It's in your blood. You'll get there. He sat down next to her. Once you get it, though, there's nothing like flying into battle on the back of a dragon, controlling his flames as they shoot out of his mouth and torching your enemies to a crisp. He slapped his knee. I missed that. I bet you were really good at it. One of the best among many great ones. Couldn't a city do something for you? If you were a master wizard rider, I feel like there would be a job for you out there. You wouldn't have to sit around raising dwarf goats. You could be helping protect the city right now. Connor's smile fell. I was spent for a lot of years. The blowback from the blast drained it all. Yeah, but you're not anymore, and you still haven't explained how you got your powers back after all these years. How could you all of a sudden be able to heal me? Where's that been? He gazed up at the sky, which was gradually turning from black to deep blue. I suppose it was still in there somewhere, waiting for the right time to come back. I'm not complaining. It's perfect. The world could use somebody like you who knows what they're doing. You could guide the next generation. Connor placed his hands behind him and leaned back, resting on his palms while he watched the sliver of sun growing larger as it rose. The rosy glow illuminated the vast pasture where they were practicing and the blackened spots from errant fireballs. There are a lot of reasons why a wizard rider might not want to be a part of the fight anymore. Like what? Too much loss, perhaps? Or take your headmaster, for example. Aiden Flynn was an excellent rider. That man can spin a spell faster than anyone I ever met. Probably still can. She shook her head confused. What's he doing running the school? He still has a lot of power. I would understand if he was spent, but Flynn can still go. He should be out there riding dragons right now. Connor lowered his gaze. Flynn was caught in a bad fight with some of the swarm. The tall, oversized creature with tentacles around their faces and forearms came after him. They were the ones that controlled the others. Remember? We called them skifflings. They were named after a childhood story of a monster that came in many forms. Kill one of those and a section would lose their sentient command and attack each other. Flynn flew after the tallest one, a tall poppy. A tall, poisonous poppy. It was a brutal fight. They were coming at him faster than he could cut them down, and he was great in battle, just outnumbered. Is that when he got that scar on his face? He nodded. They were slashing at him viciously. He was a bloody mess when he got back to the base we had set up on foot. No dragon? No dragon. He didn't say a word. We knew he had just been through hell, so we left him alone. One night by the fire, I sat with him and talked it over. He admitted he got in over his head facing so many by himself. Flynn had barely gotten out of the reach of the swarm when a skiffling wrapped their tentacle around his dragon, pulling the two of them toward the ground. He was seconds away from their waiting maw when his dragon bucked him off her back. She saved his life. Flynn said once she did that, she stopped fighting. The damn thing pulled her under their grasping claws. Flynn said she didn't make a noise, just accepted her death. He sprinted away from the battleground to safety, but he was heartbroken. He had been with that dragon for 20 years. Raven found herself feeling a newfound respect for her headmaster. He couldn't get another dragon? He could have, Raven. Connor placed his hands on his knees and stretched out his back. But when you're in a battle like that, when you come that close to death, sometimes survival almost feels worse than not making it. You carry the memories on your shoulders. He lowered his voice, and it becomes too much to go back. She sat in the silence for a moment, knowing her grandfather was not just talking about Aiden Flynn. I'm going to try lighting that last torch one more time. Then I need to go feed the goats. You got it. Let's give it another try. They both rose to their feet. Raven grabbed the flame and carried it over to the farthest torch, just barely missing the wick before it crashed down and ignited the grass surrounding it. Connor put his arm around her. It's okay. You'll get it. The first time I tried it, I nearly burned down the main hall of Fowler. Go do your chores. I'll take care of everything out here. Connor Albee trudged along the field with another bucket of water, smiling to himself. Nothing scares away cockroaches like a good fire. If she can get a handle on it, we're going to be okay. He doused the flames while Raven headed into the barn to grab breakfast for the goats. That's it. Monday will be chapters 27 and 28. We're getting close to the end, too, if you're wondering. And hopefully I will get to see all of you. I know Diane, I think, said she had something she had to do. And hopefully I will get to see all the rest of you tomorrow at lunch at 1 p.m. Central Time, which is previously a half hour. And hopefully you all entered to win a pizza. 5 people will win. And we will all join together with T.R. Cameron, who wrote Signs of Magic and Federal Agents of Magic, and Charlie Case, who wrote Finnegan Dragonbender, The Adventures of Finnegan Dragonbender, and The Lone Valkyrie. So, and also, The Witches of Presto Street successfully came out yesterday. Amazon was right on it. So the Magic Unbound is out. So there's something new to go read. And to finish, there's this book and another one in Witches of Presto Street in the Terra Novis universe. I hope you all have a great day. And I will see you literally all here tomorrow at Zoom. And the link, if you need it, just message me or ask in one of the Facebook groups and we can post it there. And I will see you tomorrow. It's the same link as last week if you still have it. Talk to you later.